Number 1. Bean and chili tacos wrapped in cloth. She made them the night before. Not the night before, because the morning of there was no time, because the bus left at 4:30 and he needed to be on it, and before the bus there was coffee, and before the coffee there was the packing, and before the packing there was the making. The beans were from the pot that had been going since Sunday. The chili was dried, toasted, rehydrated, blended into a paste that she spread directly onto the tortilla before the beans went on, so that every bite had heat from the inside out. Wrapped in cloth. Not foil, cloth, because cloth breathes and keeps things at the right temperature longer than foil does, and she had learned this the way she had learned everything, through paying attention to what worked and what didn't over years of feeding someone who needed to be fed at 5 in the morning before going somewhere she couldn't follow. He ate them in the field at 10, crouched between rows, in 10 minutes. They tasted like the kitchen. They tasted like the night before. They tasted like someone who had been awake at midnight thinking about his lunch. Number 2. Tortillas with lard and salt. The simplest thing on this list. The thing that existed when there was nothing else, or when the week had been long and the money had run short and the options had narrowed to what the hands could make from the most basic materials available. Tortillas made that morning from masa, cooked on the comal, spread while still hot with lard and a pinch of salt, folded in half and wrapped tight. In the hand they felt substantial. In the stomach they lasted. The lard was not a compromise, it was the point. Fat carries heat and energy and stays with a body through hours of physical work in a way that other things do not. She knew this not from nutrition science but from 30 years of watching what held people and what didn't. The tortilla with lard and salt held people. It held them through the morning and into the afternoon and sometimes through the whole day when there was nothing else at noon, and the man who ate it kept working, kept moving through the rows, kept going because something in his hands at midnight had made sure he could. Number 3. Potato and chorizo in a jar. The jar because it traveled without spilling. The lid sealed tight, wrapped in a cloth, placed at the bottom of the bag where it would stay warmest longest. Inside, potatoes cooked soft in the fat that came out of the chorizo broken into pieces small enough that every bite had some, the whole thing seasoned with a dried chili she had added at the beginning and removed at the end, its work done, its flavor distributed through everything. He opened the jar at noon with hands that had been in the dirt since 6. He ate it with a tortilla from the cloth in the same bag. The combination of fat and starch and protein in chili was not accidental. It was the result of years of understanding what a body needs in the middle of a hard day. Nobody taught her the science. She taught herself by watching what a man needed to keep going, and then making exactly that, every single day. Number 4. Hard-boiled eggs with dried chili. Portable. Durable. Complete. She boiled them the night before and let them cool in the pot, then packed them still in their shells because the shell protects and insulates and means the egg is exactly right when it arrives wherever it is going 12 hours later. The dried chili, a small morita or chili de arbol, was wrapped separately in a piece of paper, to be crumbled over the egg after peeling, the way salt and pepper come separately when someone has thought ahead. He peeled the egg over the dirt, which was the only table available. He crumbled the chili over it. He ate it in 3 bites. It cost almost nothing. It gave him everything he needed to keep going until the tacos at noon. The egg was not a compromise. It was a solution, arrived at through the specific intelligence of someone who had been solving the problem of how to feed a working body under difficult conditions for her entire adult life. Number 5. Rice cooked in broth packed in a cloth-wrapped pot. She cooked the rice in chicken broth instead of water because broth has flavor and flavor is not a luxury, it is something a person needs when everything else about the day is hard. The rice went into a small clay pot she owned specifically for this purpose, covered while still hot, wrapped in a cloth that had been warmed in the oven first, placed in the bag. By the time he opened it 4 hours later in the field, it was still warm. Not hot. Warm, which was the target. Hot rice in a field at noon in the San Joaquin Valley in August is not what you want. Warm rice, slightly fragrant, substantial, tasting like a kitchen and not like a field, that is what you want. She had calibrated this. She knew exactly how much insulation was needed to achieve warm at hour 4. She had learned it through trial and error over seasons of harvests, adjusting the cloth, adjusting the pot, adjusting the timing, until she had it exactly right. Number 6. Dried meat with chili and lime. The meat dried at home, not bought pre-made. Cut thin, salted, rubbed with a paste of dried chili and a little garlic, hung in a dry place, sometimes in the sun, sometimes near the stove, until it stiffened into something that would last for days without refrigeration, that could travel without spoiling, that could be eaten cold or warmed on a comal if there was a comal available, which in the fields there was not. He ate it cold, pulled in strips, with a tortilla. The lime came separately, in a small cloth, one half wrapped tight. Squeezed over the dried meat, it did something that is hard to explain, brightened it, cut through the salt, made the chili come forward in a way it didn't without the acid. The lime was not optional. She packed it every time. He knew to expect it every time. That expectation, that reliable small brightness at the bottom of the bag, was not nothing. In a day of unpredictability and difficulty and physical exhaustion, the reliable lime was a form of stability. Number 7. Pinto bean soup in a thermos. The thermos was the technology that changed everything. Before the thermos there was cold food at noon. After the thermos there was hot soup in a field in December in the Central Valley when the temperature had not gone above 50 and the hands were numb, and something hot was the difference between a manageable day and a dangerous one. The beans had been cooking since the night before, whole, in their broth, with epazote and a dried chili and a piece of onion that she removed before the soup went into the thermos. The broth was thin enough to drink directly from the thermos lid, which served as a cup. He drank it standing between rows in the cold. It moved from the thermos into his hands, into his stomach, and from his stomach into the rest of him. She had thought about the cold when she was making the soup the night before in the warm kitchen. She was always thinking one step ahead of wherever he was. Number 8. Salsa packed in a small jar. She made it fresh the morning of, or the night before if the morning was too short. 3 ingredients: dried chiles toasted on the comal, garlic, salt. Blended with a little water into a paste so thick it didn't move in the jar, so concentrated that a small amount was enough for everything in the bag. It went on the bean tacos, on the rice, on the dried meat, on the plain tortilla when the plain tortilla was all there was. A jar of salsa in a farmworker's lunch bag in 1955 was not a condiment, it was the difference between food that could be endured and food that could be wanted. Wanting your food, looking forward to it, sitting down to it with something close to pleasure even in a dirt field after 6 hours of physical labor, that is not a small thing. She understood this. She made the salsa every time because she understood that pleasure is not a luxury. It is something a person needs to keep going. Number 9. Corn tamales from the week's masa. The masa left over from the week's tortillas, too much to waste, not enough for a full batch but enough for 8 or 10 small tamales. She made them at night, stuffed with whatever was available: beans, a little potato, a piece of chili. Wrapped in corn husks she kept dried in a paper bag in the cabinet, steamed in the pot she used for everything. In the morning they went into the bag still warm, wrapped in a cloth. By noon they were room temperature, which was exactly right, not cold enough to be unpleasant, not so warm they had continued cooking in the bag. He ate them with the salsa from the jar. The tamale that came from leftover masa that came from corn that she had bought at the beginning of the week had traveled through 4 days and multiple transformations before it arrived in his hands in the field. Nothing was wasted. Everything had a next life. Number 10. Refried bean tostadas that survived the commute. The tostadas fried the night before, not the morning of, because fried things need to cool completely before they travel or they become soft. She cooled them on a cloth overnight, stacked them carefully in the morning, spread them with refried beans that had thickened enough overnight to not drip in transit, wrapped the whole assembly in paper. He unwrapped them at noon. They had survived 3 hours in a bag, a bus, and a walk to the field in a way that bread-based things do not survive, because fried corn is structurally superior to bread for travel, a fact that had been understood in Mexican kitchens for generations before any food scientist had a name for it. He ate them standing. They were good. They were supposed to be good. She had thought about the travel time when she was making them.